Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous episode of the Color of Money podcast. We are glad you've joined us today because we have a special guest. And I know I say that every time, but I mean it every time. We have a special guest. Today, we're talking with Tiffany Todd. And Tiffany Todd is a mega agent out of Dallas, Texas. She is a single mom of three, a solo agent. And she's also a relocation specialist and an educator. I want to make sure I throw that in there because it's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today. As you all know, we have 4 pillars that we talk about on the Color of Money podcast. We talk about real estate sales. We talk about leadership. We talk about development. And of course, we talk about wealth building. Tiffany can talk about all of those things, but today she's really going to talk to us about her sales business, about helping other agents with their sales business so that we can help our community build wealth. I'm also, of course, joined by my co-host, Daniel Dixon and Emmerich Peace. And Tiffany, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Glad to be here. So I am Tiffany Todd. I am located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, have been selling real estate for 12 years now. Also relocation specialist the past 10 years. A former school teacher and mother to 3 beautiful children. 2 children and 1 young adult. So that's me.
Now, if Bo was on the episode today, I know he would start by saying, why real estate?
So I got into real estate, I say, out of desperation. I was a school teacher, and I felt like I had reached my peak of teaching school-age children. And I was looking for something different to do where I had more time in my schedule. At the time, my children were very young. My youngest daughter, who was about to be 13, was 1 at the time. And so I was wanting to really be able to spend time with them. And I got on Facebook. And the lady that sold my sister and I our house and we lived together, she had made a post that she had just opened her own brokerage, and she was looking for 10 people to join her brokerage that she could train to sell real estate. And I thought, real estate. I said, not the greatest in math. I don't know, but I need to get out of this classroom somehow, some way. So I reached out to her, asked her if she had found her 10 people. And she said, no, I have not. And she said, as a matter of fact, I think you would be great selling real estate. So she sent me the information. This was in February. And by the last weekend in February, I had enrolled in Kaplan professional schools. And I took my real estate classes on Saturday and Sunday. And I was licensed on my 30th birthday. And I've been selling real estate ever since.
You know what's great about that? Some of my top producing agents have a teaching background of some capacity. Middle school, elementary school, just the ability to follow directions, work hard, and educate your clients seems to be the secret sauce to having a big business.
I would agree.
I think education seems to be the secret sauce to a lot of things, particularly anything that relates to real estate, because we go so many different directions with that. You talked to me, Tiffany, the other day about how you educate your clients about wealth building. Tell me more about that.
So what I have started doing, because I like to call myself a real estate strategist, and a strategist is someone that comes up with strategies that benefit other people and also themselves. And so with my clients, I just had a conversation with a former client of mine yesterday whose son is in college, and he called me and he was like, hey, my son is renting, but he is looking to try to purchase a home. And I'm also trying to get him set up to where he can purchase some acres. And we just want to get him set up. So we had about an hour conversation on what that would look like. Okay, his lease is up in May. So I said, okay, I will put him in contact with an agent that's out there where he's going to school. And what she'll do from there is put him in contact with the mortgage loan officer so that he can get in position to purchase. And what I also said about the acreage, because they were wanting to purchase acreage here back in Texas, I said, you want to focus on areas where there is growth happening. So you look at something where the acreage may be relatively low right now. That way you can buy and hold that. And in the event, if you decide that you all do not want to build anything on it, you may be able to sell that off for double or quadruple, whatever the market may look like at that time for what you paid for it. And I said, you can then take that money, and whether you want to buy investment properties or even hold on to that, then you can do so. So that is one of the conversations. Another conversation that I've had with some clients is a index universal life policy where there's the cash value in there. And so I've kind of explained to them, if you have one of those policies and is building cash, each time you go and make a payment on it, you do have some wealth set aside. And so what I was explaining to them was, this was a couple, if you are needing to take out a loan, instead of going to a bank where they're pulling your credit and you're having to get approved, well, you can use what you have in that policy because it's yours and it's not taxed. And you can take that money and you can do what you need to do with that. So I've studied different ways for my clients to be able to build wealth. And then I'm recently reading a book that's called Wealth Without Cash. I'm not sure if you all have heard of that, but I'm reading that book where it's talking about subject twos. And I was on it was a Zoom, I believe that was last year before last, with Monique, that's out of the San Antonio market. She was talking about subject twos. And so that kind of piqued my interest as well. And then, of course, the wholesaling piece. So I'm just looking at, again, different ways. And I've also bought and flipped. And I'm still learning that. So I'm not having too many conversations on that because there's some things that happened with my first fix and flip that I don't think were supposed to go the way that they did.
That's what I want to hear about. Well, you have to tell us that story.
it was things that I noticed that seemed a little out of order for me as far as green tags and the way some of the work was done. I'm not sure. I feel like there were some corners that were trying to be cut unethically. And I'm really big on integrity because I was not only the owner, but I was the listing agent for that property. So I held up the sale because I wanted to make sure that everything was done properly before this new buyer, because it was a first time home buyer in their family, purchased this home. I didn't care about the money. If I had to let it go for it to be done right, I was willing to do that. So I'm still learning a little bit about that.
I think that's the takeaway though. Like you don't know what you don't know. And for all the listeners, like you gotta go make the mistakes and learn the lessons because this is a journey that we're on. It's not gonna be one and done for you. This is just the first one that created so many learning opportunities for you to then go grow, expand, and educate others moving forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Daniel. And I'm glad you did that, Tiffany, because a lot of people will say, I don't know enough, so I'm just not going to do anything. But you have to experience it to know, because now you know this time what it's not supposed to look like. And so the next time, it'll be different. But I wanted to know because I had a similar experience, the same thing. And after I also sold it to a first-time home buyer on a program. And immediately after they got in there, I think that they found that there was mold in there because it was leaking under it was bad down where the kids were sleeping. It was a whole bad thing. And I had disclosed that there had been some water damage. We thought we had remedied it and rectified it. It had not. I ended up tearing the whole thing up, putting a sump pump in after she was in there, after she bought it. Just again, the integrity of, we didn't have to do that, of course. Right. But the integrity of it. And it was my first time, you know. So you learn those things, and sometimes learning is expensive, And
you can't be discouraged. It's about knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is, you can read and get knowledge, but wisdom is through the hard knocks of experience, and you just learn and you grow. So it's gonna happen. You're better for that experience.
Yeah. So you're doing flips, you're selling real estate, of course, as well. You're educating your clients as you sell real estate. Tell us a little bit about your sales business. How is that set up? How many houses do you sell? How do you go about doing it? all of those things, where you get your clients from. I mean, just tell us
Sure.
about your business. Yeah.
Okay. So my business is referral based. I've never paid for leads. So my business comes from my sphere of influence, past clients, and then social media. And the way that I started doing that was when I first got into the business. Here in Texas, as you all know, it does not snow here often. And I had been licensed a few months, and we had snow here in Texas. And so I was like, okay, I can either sit here, watch TV, twiddle my fingers, or I can make use of my time. So what I did, every single one of my Facebook friends, I inboxed them and I told them, hey, I'm selling real estate now. And I asked if I could get their email address and any other form of contact information that they'd like to share with me. And I put that into a spreadsheet. And so the brokerage that I was at the time, they had a system called intranets. Put those contacts in there. And what I was able to do within that company's intranet, you could send out little postcards, little recipes, things like that. So twice a month, I started sending them emails. And then I went on Facebook and I created a Facebook business page. And every Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m., I would do what was called Tiffany's Tuesday house pick. And I would pick a random house and I would tell a little bit about the house, why I chose this house this week. And every time at the end, I would put, if you have anyone that's looking to buy or sell or even lease, feel free to reach out to me. So after about, I'd say 6 months of doing this, and I was consistent and I, realized that I could schedule the post. So I started utilizing that as well. I started getting leads and people started sharing those posts. And so then I started getting phone calls. And so I remember there was a day I got like 3 leads in one day, and that was big for me at the time. And I remember calling my mother and I was like, Mom, I'm a real estate agent now. I've got business. And she was like, oh, that's great. And so from then, it business just really kind of took off. However, I do want to share this. Even though business took off, my first 4 transactions, there was a hiccup with it. And at that time, we were mid-year. And so I only did that year, I want to say maybe 7 transactions. But I remember my father, because I would talk to him every day, and he was like, you know what, real estate is just not for you. Every time you get some type of deal, something happens. And I was also broke, by the way, broke. I had accumulated $30,000 worth of debt. I had no money. And so he said, I don't like seeing you struggling like this. You need to just go back to a teaching job. There was a teaching job that I had been offered at one of the cream of the crop schools in Dallas, and I turned it down. And I said, no, I am going to make this work. And he was like, no, and so what happened, and this is when I had the mindset shift. I was crying because I was like, why is this happening to me? Every time I get my hands on something, something happens, the deal falls through. And I was sitting in the office and it's like a light bulb went off. And I said, you know what? I said, this is happening to me early on so that when I do become even greater, I'll be able to help other agents that may encounter similar situations that I'm facing like this. And so when I had the mindset shift, not only did my business start to flourish, it was almost like business, even and I was still working, but business was coming. I started helping other agents, and I was only a year and a half in at the time. I started helping other agents with their business, putting little things together. And so from then, my production just kept going up, business step kept growing, and I just continued to basically follow the simple model that I started with was my sphere of influence in social media. And so to this day, I've done that. And then a few years after that, the brokerage I was with, they had a relocation team. And they said, we're going to put you on the relocation team. And I was like, well, what is that? And they're like, well, when we have people that are moving here, certain agents based on their production can come on this relocation team. We'll send you leads and you can service these clients. So they were, a lot of them were military clients. And then these were also clients that were being relocated for job purposes. So what that allowed me to do, I said, okay, if I'm working with these people that are coming here, I ought to make a lead generation around where I reach out to agents in different states and introduce myself. So I started doing that. And then I created a spreadsheet that I share with them to put their information in. So now when I have someone, whether they're wanting to buy a home here, but if I see a post or I hear someone that I know talking about possibly moving out of state or even to a different area in Texas, I say, hey, I have someone for you. And so that's how I built the relocation piece. And then when I was at Keller Williams, I would go to the family reunions, and I used that as an opportunity to network with other agents from different states. And so I was able to further build there. And so that's how I have built the relocation piece of my business. So now I typically do about 10, I get 10 referrals on average year to year from out-of-state agents.
We're networking and building and creating relationships with other agents. And you did that by attending events as well, that's how you met Uncle Emmerich. You said you met him at an event.
Right. And you know what? And that's the key. A lot of people don't really get that part, that it's not just about you and your business. It's about helping other people in their business, and your business will grow because it's about relationships. I say it all the time. Relationships will take you places money can't.
Yes.
And, everybody's one relationship away from whatever life they want to live. So I like that. I like the idea that you form those relationships, because that can be the lifeblood of your business a lot of times.
Well, and not just forming the relationships, Tiffany, you're teaching other real estate agents how to do this business as well, right?
So I wrote a 5-module curriculum. And so it basically, if the agent, once I release it, if these agents, and it's geared towards agents that are brand new in the business and that have been in like 3 to 5 years, that feel like they are stagnant or they can't get over the hump to get to that next level, it's geared towards them. If they will follow the module, then they can too have a successful business.
Pause right there. If they can follow the module, if they follow the plan, if they follow the model, right? Like,
Exactly.
everyone listening, if you follow the model.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yes. If one of the things, as I've said before, that I am big on is coming from contribution. I feel like when you are generous and are always grateful, then there is no reason, or you have no choice but to multiply and go up, because this is not, like I said, I don't do things. Yes, I want to make money, but I don't do it for the money, because I'm a believer when I do right and help others, the money will come. And I don't worry about where my next piece of business is going to come from, because I know I've planted good seeds out there. Then I will reap what I sow. So if they follow this module that starts with mindset, because oftentimes we are in a world where social media has just kind of taken over, especially with our real estate industry. You see agents that are making the cool videos, and I like them. I'm not knocking anyone. You do what you do. Where you see them showing a home, or they're posting a closing, or they're doing some funny little thing. And I do skits as well. But you're not seeing those behind the scenes things when, you're a couple of days from closing and you get a call from the lender that says, oh, Mr. Brooks, lost his job, or we found this. Okay, then what? Or when you have negotiated maybe your client to have a repair done, you go back and you do the final walkthrough and that repair is not done. Then what? Okay. So we have to have the right mindset, because if you are coming into this industry and you're like, yes, I got my first client, I'm about to make whatever. Okay, well, what about the mishaps? Are you just so focused on the end of getting your money to where you're not worried about your client and their well-being? So we have to start there. What is your mindset? So that's why I started that with module 1. And then I'll follow it by let's move the needle. Okay, we're in the right mindset. Let's move the needle. What are activities that you can do on a day-to-day basis? And so one thing about me, when I used to hear lead generating, I would cringe because my mind went to calling, door knocking. And I tried that. That's not my niche. Okay. So that may be someone else's niche. But it is different things that you can do as a real estate agent to build your business. I don't when I talk to new agents and they say, "Oh, can you help me? I'm struggling." And the first thing I ask them, "Okay, what are you doing to get business?" Well, I called. Well, how many calls are you making? What is your goal? What do when I start asking questions like that, and they may come off as hard questions to someone that's new, and the intent is not to tear them down. If you're asking for my help, I need to know where to start. How can I help you? And so when I start asking, I call them probing questions, and they can't tell me. I'm like, aha, okay. Let's get you on the right track because you may be doing something that isn't going to get you the results that you're looking for. I believe once you find that sweet spot, so for me, it's my database and social media. It's endless from there. You just keep doing that, keep building it, keep building from that. Or if it's calling, you keep adding to that. So that's the second module. And then when we go into the third module, now you're making money. We got to make sure you're managing that money properly. Are you putting aside for your taxes? Are you putting aside for retirement? Do you have any IRAs? What are you doing with that? Because one of the things that scared me, which is why I'm really big on properly managing my money, is at the first brokerage that I was at, my office manager was saying how he owed thousands of dollars to the IRS and his wages were garnished. And he said they probably had my name on the wall at the IRS. And so that scared me. And I said, okay, I don't want to be like that. And so I've always just made sure, when I'm getting a commission, that is not all of my money. It's not. And so
Say that again for the people in the back.
that is not all of my money. It's not.
Your name is on the check, so it must be all yours.
That does not belong to me. So I have it broken down where it goes to different accounts. When it's time for my taxes to be paid, they're paid. I have an investment account, and then I have some accounts set aside for my children as well. So that's not all of my money. It's not. And so we talk about properly utilizing the money. And so that, to me, I think is the biggest module because, like I said, you say, oh, my gosh, I've made $10,000. No, you have not. You haven't made $10,000.
I think that's the downfall with agents in our industry is money management. Mm-hmm. They get the closing and they spend the closing instead of, there's a really good book. I can't think of the name of it right now. But it talks about money management, dividing your income into 5 different buckets. And so when you think about an operating account, you think about your fun account and your spending account, your tax account and everything else. When you look up and go, oh, I made a $10,000 closing, but only $2,500 of that money is mine. Like that's the only money that I can spend. How do you adjust at that point? I think if agents make that change early, their entire careers will change. But they get to this closing to closing mindset because you get it and you spend it, and you get it and you spend it.
Yep, that's true. So after
that's module 3.
That's module 3, and then in module 4, we're now talking about just continuing the building of your business, what you can do, because you can get stagnant. You can start just now, oh, I got it. I don't need to lead generate. Yes, you want to continuously look for business. And so making sure, okay, now you've gotten these closings under your belt. If you're going to be, a referral-based agent or strictly relying on your database, now you've got to feed your database. Okay, so now what are you doing? So for my A plus and A clients, I do pop buys with them. So they get the pop buys from me. My B clients, they're getting an email from me, and it's just real estate related. And then I do video text messages. And if, let's say, now that it's coming up on time again to protest taxes, I'll be sending out my yearly video text. Hey, it's me again. Let me know.
Now, wait, let me stop. Let me just ask quickly, Tim, let me stop you there. Is that something that I learned when I moved to Texas, the protesting taxes? That people don't just off the bat protest taxes in Minnesota. Do they do that? Do they do that where y'all are from?
We pay taxes. We don't protest.
No, it's like status quo. You automatically protest your taxes.
Because the taxes are like $10,000 a year. That's why.
Can you just tell people what that is? Because you're saying that, Tiffany, because it is something that realtors help their clients do. It is status quo. But to me, I was just like, oh, y'all bout it over here in Texas. You just automatically like, we're not doing it.
Nope.
We're not paying it. Yeah. So what is that? What does that mean, Tiffany?
So when I send them the little video text, I will look for comps based on their home, and I send that to them. And so every year, the whatever county they're in, the Central Appraisal District Office will send them, there's a little form that they can complete to protest their taxes. So they send in those comps, and then they are scheduled a hearing. And during that hearing, they're basically saying, hey, you have my house valued at this, and based on this, my taxes are going to be $9,000. That's too high because these two houses that are in my neighborhood, they've only sold for this, or the houses in my neighborhood, their values are on a decline, and you got mine up there. And some of mine, I've even taught them they can send in photos. Like if you have some stuff going on in your house, you send in as much as you can because you're pleading your case. That way they'll say, oh, okay, well, instead of $450, sometimes they'll settle with you. We may settle with you at $415. And if you're still not satisfied with that, there is an additional hearing that you can go to where you lay it all out. Like, look, you've got my taxes too high. We need to, this is not, I'm not paying this, basically, is what
I told
hear.
you. Isn't that crazy? I told you. Off rip, they say, as soon as you buy the house, your realtor says, you're not paying that. And then you go down there and say, I'm not paying that. And this is literally part of the real estate transaction that your realtor in Texas will help you with. This is how it goes.
Wow.
I know.
Now, Tiffany, can you give us what you tell, like that video message that you send your clients? What does that sound like for our listeners?
Sure. It's, hey, y'all, it's your realtor, Tiffany Todd here. It's that time. Just let me know if you are in need of my assistance for me to send you comparable properties on your property so you can protest your taxes. You can reply back to this message, or you can send me an email.
Beautiful. And then how many people are you sending that to?
All of my clients from that past year and previous years. So
Okay.
I know last year I sent it out to about 275 people. And so this is also what I've done. So if I have spoken to someone that maybe I didn't sell them their home, but they have talked to me about selling their home, I send it to them too.
Mm-hmm.
They're not off limits. And I did have, was that last year before, I have to go back and look, where someone I had been speaking with about possibly selling their home, she replied back and said, hey, can you do that for our house? I didn't sell them their home, but she turned around and referred a buyer to me. So I don't leave anything on the table because I don't have time to miss out on any opportunity. So when I first got in the business, I was like, I don't know if I want to talk to this person. I talk to everybody. If we're in the store and you compliment me on the way I look, I'm going to talk to you somehow, some way about real estate.
I feel like that's happened a couple times, and that's the example she uses. Okay.
Yes. If you compliment somehow, we're going to talk about real estate. And I used to have this game because I'm a former athlete. I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
And so I used to have this game, and I didn't realize it at the time that I was lead generating, but I was. So I was like, okay, if I have to go into this store during my work hours. I better come out of here doing some work. So I would take 20 business cards in the store with me. I could not come out of there until I had given those 20 business cards out. Now, it wasn't just me saying, here's my card. I had to get 20 additional contacts before I came out the store because I'm in the store during my work time. So I did that. I've gotten a listing from that. And it just so happened that I was going down the aisle, and I kind of strategically would do this. I would go down aisles where I would see multiple people, and that made me get uncomfortable because I'm not in my comfort zone. I'm talking to strangers here. So I would go down aisles where there were multiple people and we had a chance to talk. But I went down this one aisle. This lady was talking to her son and she was saying, well, we're probably going to move to Cedar Hill. And I was in DeSoto. And she was like, but I got to make sure we get the house sold, blah, blah. All I heard was house sold. Stop the buggy. Hey, how are you doing? I said, I'm not trying to be nosy. I noticed heard you and your son talking. I said, do you have a realtor you're working with? And she said, no, I've called a couple of people. And I said, you're looking at your new realtor. I said, what time can I come to your house to do the appointment? And she kind of looked, and I'm looking like I'm waiting. And she was like, well, so now I have my phone. I've pulled up my calendar looking at dates and times that I can go and meet her. So scheduled the appointment with her, went to her house, and I got the listing. Sold her house. That was 7 years ago.
Well, you said something. You said you just happened to go down. You didn't just happen to go down the aisle. It was intentional. And that's the thing about our businesses is we have to be intentional and purposeful in our actions, and we will be properly rewarded. And we just have to. Yeah. And, you were talking about this story, and I was laughing. This is just off topic. I was looking at something that said, how do you know somebody from the South? They say, when a grocery cart is called a buggy.
Buggy. Definitely.
I heard that when she said the buggy. I just started laughing.
Yeah.
It says, the grocery cart. No, it's the buggy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Buggy.
As we wrap up here, Tiffany, what would you want the listeners to learn as it relates to building a real estate business, doing well? By the way, if I'm listening, I'm kind of curious. You said you weren't doing that well your first year. How are you doing now in real estate?
Oh, I'm doing well in real estate.
What does well mean?
So this past year, it was a little lower, but I finished with a little over 9 million in sales. I did 33 transactions. I normally do between 40, 47 transactions. But this year I didn't. But this year now, I'll get back to that. But doing it a lot better. My first year, I may have done maybe 400,000, maybe. It wasn't that much.
Also, I want to make sure that our listeners not just get your final thoughts on it, but also know how to get a hold of you and this class that you told us all about. You told us all the modules. So if I want to take it, how do I find you?
So they can get in contact with me on social media. I am Tiffany Todd, or they can follow me on Instagram at Marathon Property Group, or they can contact me directly at, they're listening, 214-537-0807. And I do answer my phone.
Tiffany, any final thoughts or one thing you'd like to leave the audience with about building wealth, educating themselves and their clients?
Be intentional. As Emmerich said, be intentional.
All right. That's it. Be intentional, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us today. Thank you, of course, Daniel and Emmerich. So that's it for us on today's podcast. Color of Money podcast. We will see y'all real soon. Thank you for tuning in.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.